Transcripts are great, summaries are helpful, but what if you could also know how positive or negative your prospect sounded throughout the call? Today, we are adding a sentiment analysis step to your existing call summary workflow. The transcript goes into an AI sentiment API. We get positivity, negativity score or a judgment, which we store right alongside everything else. Imagine seeing that a call was mostly positive or 70% positive, you'd feel more confident about your follow up approach. Or if it is heavily negative, you might plan a different tactic or escalate to a senior rep. This extra layer helps you gauge the call's emotional tone at a glance. We'll show you how to connect N10 to something like sentiment analyzer built in N10, so you get a sentiment rating every time you finish a call. Let's get started. So we'll update this previously built workflow which I created for Telegram to CRM YouTube video, which is 3 or 4 videos back or episodes back in this series. I'll put that in the description. Please go check that out if you haven't yet. So basically this workflow is where we take audio files from Telegram, transcribe it, and summarize the transcription, and then put it on the CRM, right? Now, what we will do, we will take the summary and give it to the sentiment analyzer. For that, we'll add on to this workflow, we'll add a tool called N10 workflow tool, and this will be sentiment analyzer. Make sure there are no spaces in between, and I'll rename this one as well, sentiment analyzer. Perfect. You can choose to skip the description, and let's create the workflow first and then attach it here. So I'll click on trigger and on other executed workflow, right? When executed by another workflow. So there it is. Here we will be supplying the summary, which will be a text or a string. And there we go. We have it here. This will be connected to just write the name of the workflow where the execution node is. If you're creating another separate page or a separate Canva for this new additional child workflow, you can just say name it something and select that name here. I'm creating it in the same page, so I'll just select the same name, Telegram to CRM, in this tool. It's on you, but you can only just create one sub-child or a child workflow in a Canva after the parent, because you don't want parent to get confused where the child is, right? Or which one to select, which child workflow to select to do the task. I'll select sentiment analyzer here, which is a really good tool given by N10, and we will supply the summary. There we go. And sentiment categories, you can just write positive, negative, and neutral. You can choose to edit it if you want. System prompt template, where you are a highly intelligent and accurate sentiment analyzer. Analyze the sentiment of the provided text, categorize it into one of the following categories, use the provided formatting instructions, only output the JSON. Perfect. Now you will be provided script of a call between a sales executive and a prospect, right? Analyze the positivity of the prospect. Perfect. Next, we have 3 options and we'll need to provide a model for it for sure, which will be the brain, which will analyze it. And I prefer GPT-4o1, which is really good at reasoning. You can choose GPT-4o mini as well or preview 401 mini is cheaper. I'll just go with that, and it's just as good. It's good enough for the call analysis, sentiment analysis of a call. Here we will add edit fields and create a variable response, right? And just select expressions $json dot output, and there we go. Next thing, we'll just provide this to neutral as well, because we don't know which node the value will go. If the sentiments are clearly positive, it will go to the positive node and ask or return this response variable inside the this edit field node. If the response is neutral, this route will be taken, and for negative, this route will be taken, and response will be given back to this tool. Now we have a message here, or a system prompt here, which was you have two tasks to do and send one to. So we'll use this one. You have two tasks to do. One, send the script to sentiment analysis tool directly with no changes. That's the one. Second, summarize the script, and in the end add a conclusion, forward it to the next node. Also mention in the end if the sentiment is positive, negative, and neutral of the script received from the tool. Important, do not add extra lines, continue in one line. So make sure this is there, because it may cause problems sometimes when the output is in JSON format, but if there are lines skipped or new lines being added, it might just give an impression that it's not a JSON format. So make sure that is there. Just replace the prompt, and there we go. We have our sentiment analyzer ready to be used. Let's test this, how it works. Now to test it, we'll go to executions, and we had run the entire workflow earlier, not the sentiment part, but the earlier part of the workflow from where we started. And if you see, there is a pin here which has pinned the input, right? So whatever input we had given, the audio file which we had given earlier, we can just use that. For that, we will just click on test workflow, and the entire workflow will be executed with the same input as earlier, which was, if you want to see again very quickly, I'll give you a glance. It was a conversation between me and my partner, which was to consider using Google Maps lead finder API from API for getting prospects or leads and making a video on that, right? So the very first video which we created in this series was the same. We contacted APIs and fetched information of leads or maybe prospects from Google Maps lead finder API, and that's what we were discussing. That's the call recording I have in my iPhone, and I use that for summarizing and adding it into our CRM through this workflow. So the workflow did finish, but wasn't totally successful because I made a mistake. Let's correct that. So for sentiment analysis, it has not received any data, and that is because I did not pass anything here. I missed it. Let's pass it now. So we'll add summary, and inside summary we will add expressions. Make sure you select that, and $json dot chat, or the same thing as we have earlier, which is just $json, right? And that's what we will receive from code, and I think that's enough. Let's test it now. We do not need to run the entire workflow. I'll just go here and execute this part, because rest of the workflow did work fine. And okay, we are facing issues again, I think, because the workflow did reach here and it started failing here, right? If it were failing just here, we could have executed from that point, but unfortunately it is not. So what we'll do, we can I'll just run the workflow again, wait for a few minutes and come back, and hopefully this time it works. So let's see. The workflow has done execution, and let's see the results. So we have the normal workflow running quite easily and simply and giving the desired results. Now let's see the other part of the workflow, which we can see again in the next slide, which is the sentiment analysis part. And here we did receive the summary from GPT through GPT, and finally it gave us the verdict. It was neutral. So it did not find it very positive about buying the product, or in my case, I was trying to tell my partner that we should use Google Map Finder, and he was a bit skeptical to using it, but in the end we did end up using it, and the conversation did go on for a little while and it just stopped there. So it gave it a neutral signal. So I think that's it. That's how it takes it, but that's not, it did not give it negative, so that's still a plus. We can still go ahead with this, and that's what I did. The next time I talked to my partner and I told him that it would be better to go this route, and he agreed with me, and that's what it was. That's what our conversation was, and it, I think it does analyze correctly, more or less. And it also depends more on the prompting which we do, which in my case I showed it to you. You are a highly intelligent, accurate sentiment analyzer, and you'll be provided a script of a call between sales executive and a partner and analyze if it is positive or not. So that was my prompt. I could have maybe elaborated more what is positive, what is neutral, what is negative, and that's it. So that's our workflow of sentiment analysis. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new, like the video, subscribe to this channel, and do recommend us to your friends who are just starting a business or who have started a business and is struggling with managing customers. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.